Hey, kids. You're listening to the internet's wettest podcast about video games, consoles, and pancakes. The SML Podcast. Prepare for the SML Podcast.
There's everyone. Everyone's here.
Hey!
Man, like in the span of a minute, everyone just swooped in.
It's kind of
nice.
Give me a minute. I got a whiz. Be right back.
Knew it was too good to be true.
Perfect.
But Joe, for real, I really can't talk about it on the show. So, yeah.
Well, we're streaming, so don't talk about anything.
Perfect.
Don't even talk.
Ever again.
What can't you talk about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm so curious.
this me with an iron box, dude. I like it.
Do I know Glenn Case?
I don't know. Do you?
I don't know.
Did you ever go to screwattack.com back in the day?
Oh yeah.
So did you ever hear the hard news theme with da 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 ba da ba ba?
Oh, probably. Oh, right on.
Me.
That's
like
awesome.
It would play before some angry video game nerd stuff and everything, basically. So
That's awesome.
Did music
That
for
was
the
you?
That was me.
Whoa,
That's killer.
That was me. And Stuttering Craig asked me to come up with something that was the equivalent of like the ESPN da 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 da. I'm like, how about da 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 da?
Yeah, right.
And then there was the background music for hard news for the entire time, and I think I got paid like $200 for that.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
Dang,
That's how it worked.
It's something.
I don't think I did something for Screw Attack. I can't. What about Hey Ash? Wasn't on Screw Attack, right? Hey Ash, what you playing was on Game Trailers, right? What was Hey Ash? What you playing on?
I think that one is Game Trailers, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay, probably. Okay, I did something for them, but I don't think I did anything for.
I can't remember any of that stuff. Your memories are so much better than mine.
You remember that? You remember Hey Ash? What you playing, right?
I remember its existence, but I never really watched it. I never got into that.
I think I bought their DVDs. Like,
There you go.
that's how you do it.
So you could know me from that. You could know me from the ET world record, because I thought it would be funny to get the best score on what people call the worst game.
Extraterrestrial record.
Oh, that's awesome.
So on the Atari 2600, I am the world record holder for that. And
Really?
Oh, congrats.
Dang.
Wow.
Sweet giggums.
Glenn, how many world records do you have right now?
I only have like 8 at this point.
Only 8.
ET is the big
Only.
one. ET is the big one. And then the other game that Howard Scott Warshaw made, like, because ET is considered the worst game ever made. And Yar's Revenge is considered one of the best games put out on the Atari. And I had that world record for a while, but then someone saw my video and that inspired them to beat my world record, and they succeeded. But they at least left a nice comment saying that my video was what had inspired them to try. So that's kind of cool. And then someone else
Sorry,
came
I
up.
want to catch it. I need to get on this before we move too far, because I need to know this tidbit of point, which is, so you have the record for ET speedrun, right? Now,
No, not speedrun. 8.5 hours. It's just the top score. 8.5 hours
top score.
Yeah, it's over 1 million points.
No, I have to, but the thing is, I have to know. Did you, and they say, like you said yourself, it's noted as being one of the worst games ever. Did you yourself enjoy the game itself, or was it more like, this is a record, I can take this shit, I'm going to do it?
I literally thought it would be funny after seeing the movie King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. I thought, wouldn't it be funny to go for the best score on what people call the worst game?
Yes.
And that's what it started as. And I didn't know it was going to take me 8.5 hours of gameplay, but that's what it took to do it. And I don't think that it's remotely the worst game, even on the Atari. There's worse games on the Atari.
It's true.
I think that Go on.
But here's the rub, though, right? So even if you now, having experienced the time with the game, have come to realize that it is not the worst game ever made, the belief is still out there, which means that for someone to come and take your score, take your record, that means you are subconsciously subjected them to the quote unquote worst game ever made, just to eclipse your score. Like
It seems like I need to keep all this on the show because it's really good content right now.
That's
you
great.
always that's the
So
rule,
I guess
man.
this. I don't know where the intro to the show was, but
Hi, this is the SML podcast. We started
What's up,
10 minutes
everybody?
ago.
It's SML
I'm looking
Podcast.
this
We
up
got
right
Glenn.
now.
We got Pernell.
So the other
that's about
factor
it.
with that was funny is I was going after the score. The original score that I was beating was by Todd Rogers. I don't know if that's a name that any of you are familiar with. He was the first professional gamer, but he also
We went to college together.
he was a cheater, as it turned out, and they proved
shit.
it without a shadow of doubt that he had cheated on a bunch of his records. So all of his records were removed.
We never went to college together. I don't even know the guy.
Can y'all hear me?
I don't even like this guy.
oh, I can hear you now, Chris.
There you go. When they removed his
You're
record,
quiet
now
though. Let me.
the closest
let me turn
to mine
myself
is
up here. How about that?
Yeah, you're good.
the
Okay.
closest score to mine now is 1/10 of my score as a result, because the score that I would beat was probably fake.
That's actually kind of cool in its own right, too, though, right? Hey, here's
Yeah,
this
they
guy.
fake
He
score?
thinks he's got some hot shit. Let me take him out. And then you're like, well, it turns out he wasn't even real. That just means I'm 20 times better. And now people have to go across my score to beat it now. So he ruined
Andrew
it all.
says, love all the King of Kong rabbit hole stuff. Also, Andrew, thank you for the sub earlier. I don't know why my alerts aren't going off,
Thank
but
you.
thank you very much. Love your support.
Thank
Love
you.
seeing you hanging out.
What was the fake score that you were talking about?
E.T., the score that I beat was by Todd Rogers.
Oh, Todd
and
Rogers, okay.
and Todd Rogers got all of his scores removed from Twin Galaxies because
Fraud.
they called him Fraud Rogers after a while as a result.
Oh, take that. Dude.
Oh, that's good.
But he literally claimed a number of scores that were proven to be impossible. And so one example was the game Barnstorming for the Atari, where you move this biplane up and down. And every time that you move up or down, you lose a little bit of time because of like the wind resistance. But someone went through and removed all of the obstacles, like coding, and that score, even where there were no obstacles, could not beat the score that he had claimed to get.
Oh,
So
Like a game
that's-
genie or something.
I
Is
kind of
that-
appreciate. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, got it. Go on.
I was just going to say it's very impressive they were able to deduce through means that the score was impossible. Like they actually went the extra mile to say, yeah, you kind of fucked up here. You went,
Yeah, Twin
you shot
Galaxies
for the
is pretty
moon. Well, you
intense
should have just
about
got a reasonable score.
Exactly, and the thing is, he was one of the officiators at Twin Galaxies too, so he was one of the referees there as well, and so and so this was
man.
multiple. There's multiple rabbit holes that end up happening, but like they say, yeah, no, the one that came to their attention was the game Dragster, and his Dragster on the Atari had gone unchallenged for something like 35 years. And they did machine runs to try to get the perfect run where they timed it to like the 10th of a second. And again, the computerized thing could not beat the score that he had claimed. There was another score that he had claimed that ended in an 8, but everything in the game ends with a 5 or a 0. So it's literally impossible to have any score other than one that ends with a 5 and a 0. He had so many of them that were disprovable.
So
If you're gonna cheat, you got to do it right.
More than machine. That's what I'm
yeah,
hearing.
this guy sounds like a winner.
Also, I just realized I had my mic plugged into the wrong input, so I probably
There
louder
you
now,
are.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah, you're
that's
much
how
louder.
mine-
Yeah, you're good.
But that leads to its own
Okay.
question there, right? Like, so it's one thing when, you bust your ass, you jump through a bunch of hoops, and you pull off this amazing score that ends up in the record book. It's another thing also, if you play the game with a couple of friends, the score is going to stay at this table at this time, and you just happen to win. You take the crown, and everybody orders you a piece of it because that's what the winner gets, right? But it's another thing to say, okay, I lied about this score that goes in the record books, and people are going to reference me, and people are going to ask me about how I felt to get the score that I didn't technically earn. I fucking lied to just note it. Like, I can't speak for everybody else in this chat, but there's something about it that just feels like it wouldn't even work for me mentally. Like, I couldn't sit there and own a score that I never earned at a national recognized level. It just doesn't compute, and I can't fathom what that guy was thinking. As he
Especially
talked to
something that
people.
niche.
Yeah.
I think back in the 80s, especially, that people would claim these scores and figured that there would never be a way to double check it to say you're a liar. And the problem is that now with the technology that we have, there are plenty of people who can disprove this stuff and have ways of doing it. And so I think that's like he played the long game and he lost ultimately.
Mhm.
And 3 of the world records that I got were beating his scores that probably were fake.
That were fake. That's cool.
So
in your face, dick.
Because you go around telling people,
Yeah,
I'm the real
Rod
Rogers.
Rogers.
He's a fucking
Duck
fake.
Noose was saying no relation to Mr. Rogers, right? And then asking what Mr. Rogers would speedrun. I feel like he would play something like
Animal
Doom.
He's speedrun Animal Crossing, of course.
Mr. Rogers he's an old school Quake speedrunner.
Yeah.
He invented clips that are being used to this day.
I think he's a big Doom fan.
Yeah.
I could totally speedrun Animal Crossing, and I'm sticking to it. It just makes logical sense.
Do you want to hear my weird little thing with Twin Galaxies?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. On my wall, I have an award. I guess it's an award. It's a certificate. Because my band Gimmick was one of Walter Day's superstars of 2017. He made a trading card out of us. Yeah, and it has this nice writing on it. It's signed by Walter Day and Billy Mitchell, and it was presented completely by surprise to my band at 9:00 in the morning on a day we were supposed to play, and luckily one of us was there. It was not me, so I did not get to receive this certificate from Billy Mitchell. It was in fact our drummer, but we do have a picture of that, and he had to make a speech up on the fly too. So it was very ramshackle, this whole process. But yeah, there's some miscommunication, but it's still like that certificate is on my wall.
Take a picture.
That's crazy.
Nice.
I want to see it.
All right, I will. I'll put one in the Discord right now.
I think 2017 may be the year that mine also exists, because Walter Day does make his own trading cards for like people that have done great things. And after I met him at Portland Retro Gaming Expo, yeah, he ended up making a card for me as well.
I think he made one for Joe Yeaman of MagFest as well.
That tracks.
I think I have his actually somewhere. I think he gave one to me.
Nice.
Glenn, I want your opinion. We're talking about horrible games. A game we just covered on the last episode was Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. What do you think of that coming back?
Oh, I think it's brilliant. But to me, I love bad cinema sometimes and bad games that are so clearly terrible that they almost come back around to being awesome. And I've never played Plumbers but I'm familiar with it enough as what it is. I'd probably buy it. I think it's fascinating because a lot of times anyway, you have to figure that these game developers do not seek out to intentionally make a terrible game. But anyone who was working on that would have had to have seen at some point that this was a absolutely terrible game. If you're talking about like the 10 worst games that have ever existed, I think Plumbers Don't Wear Plumbers, whatever. I don't even remember the full title of it. Yeah, that game would be one of them that would be a contender at the very least.
Generally, if a game is considered the worst game of all time, it's only because the Angry Video Game Nerd has covered it.
Yes.
I will say this about that game, though. Like, I hadn't played it before myself up until a certain point where I was at a house with some friends. And the friend owned the original version of it. And I don't know why it came up, but he goes, "What, you've never seen Plumbers Don't Wear Ties?" I'm like, no. Why the fuck would I? It's Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. I'm not looking for that.
Here's the thing.
Well, clearly, we have to play it right now. And he boots it up. He plays it the entire game in a room full of friends. And in that capacity, I will tell you that is one of the greatest games ever made. Because we were thoroughly entertained. It was hilarious to watch.
So,
I believe that.
You know what else is on the 3DO? Dennis Miller's That's News to Me, which is just sound clips of Dennis Miller riffing on the news in like the early 90s. And it's like just small video clips, and that's it. There's no gameplay. So
that's news to me.
There's worse. There's worse on that system. There's worse in FMV. You wouldn't play that at a party and people would enjoy it. Nobody enjoys Dennis Miller.
I will agree with you on that. I feel like if you had to line both of them up and say which of these two games can entertain people for 2 hours, I don't think Dennis Miller's going to make the cut, even if he's on stand-up. He's just not going to make the cut.
I don't think Plumbers would last 2 hours either. Like I picked up the game because we got review keys for it. Jacob covered it, and I talked about it as well. I got all of the achievements in the game in an hour, And most of that time was the fact that you have to do a full playthrough of the game where you cannot skip any cutscene.
Oh, wow.
So you have to play the game and you have to watch the thing. And it is so bad.
So bad, it's good. I'll give you that. And it's not 2 hours long. I was inebriated. It cut me some slack. But
it was so bad.
But that's just it, though. I mean, there's got to be a movie that you've seen in your lifetime that is so bad it's good on a humorous level. Doubly so when you're either A, under ability influence, because I know you do things sometimes, and also, just with a group of friends. Like, you're just playing it. You're not watching frickin' Citizen Kane. You're watching Citizen Lane. But as it's laid out on the screen and you're all sitting there watching it together, enjoying it together, groaning together, it just works. It works in a way that playing it alone, going for the achievements, just doesn't do. It just can't measure up in that same scenario.
Can I ask a question?
24.
I have a question. Can I have a question?
42.
Go for it.
I would like to know if this game, which I know nothing about, I know of it, but that's it. Was it made to be terrible? Was it made in earnestness? Okay, that's what I figured. That's the thing about the movies.
It's intentionally camp, yeah.
Okay, because I love the Birdemic, the Neil Breen films, like the Room stuff. I love that kind of stuff, but there's an earnestness about that, and I feel like there's this line where when you're just trying to make it bad, it can go one way or the other in terms of enjoyment. So I'm just kind of curious. I'm going to probably check this out at some point, but I'm just kind of like wondering where it falls. It sounds like it's meant to be bad just based on the name, but I was just kind of curious.
The big draw of the package isn't isn't the game. It's the supplemental content. Like all the behind the scenes stuff, all the interviews. Right. That's where they went above and beyond with this. Kind of like the first game we could talk about tonight if you guys want to get into reviews.
Oh, nice.
I want to talk about the plumbers that do wear ties. Can we talk about the plumbers that do wear ties?
We're going to talk about something possibly crazier.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're pushing reviews till tomorrow. different episode.
Should we dive into these? Everyone ready?
My toes in the pool.
Let's dive.
All right. First game to talk about tonight is Llamasoft, the Jeff Minter story. Developed and published by Digital Eclipse, released March 13th on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC for $29.99. Grid Runner, Revenge of the Mutant Camels, Tempest 2000, Llamatron. In the British gaming universe of the 80s and 90s, nobody made games like Jeff Minter. Now in a new interactive documentary from Digital Eclipse, you can play the history of one of the weirdest, wildest game developers to ever exist, and who loved shooters and sheep, lasers and llamas. Glenn, tell us about Llamasoft, the Jeff Minter story.
Well, first of all, can we just say Digital Eclipse needs to be in charge of everything and anything that has to do with historical video games, because this is a love letter to the man and the company. It is, I love the UI. It's the same UI that you're going to find within Atari 50, for example. So if any of you have played Atari 50, where everything is on a timeline, and you have so you have this timeline that is a combination of pictures and video and the video games themselves. So it's like a playable documentary. And so what I will say about it, though, is if you are used to playing modern games, like if you're like, oh, I love Breath of the Wild, this is going to be a step back from that, because the majority of games that are in this are Commodore 64 and earlier. We're talking really primitive stuff by today's standards. But if you are interested in the history of video games, this is like a lovingly crafted, playable video game documentary from the Stone Ages of all of this. When he first starts out, we learn that there's no classes about computing. Anything that you're learning about computers is if you just happen to kind of stumble upon it. He walks into a room at school where someone is at a computer and he's playing a video game. It's like, how are you playing that video game on that little screen? He's like, I made it. You made it? You can make these games? So Jeff Minter, when he's starting out, is starting from scratch, where it's learning the computer code, learning how the computers work, and just starting with the most primitive of things that he has to work with. So his first games are kind of derivative, to say the very least. Like, he makes a version of Centipede, for example, where he had not actually played Centipede. He just saw a screenshot of it, and he kind of made for in 1981 for the ZX81 computer. He ends up making this unofficial version of what he believes Centipede is going to be. And it's essentially just Space Invaders, where if the Centipede lands at the bottom of the screen, then you lose a life.
Interesting.
Man, that's ridiculous.
It is. It is. But I mean, and it's because he is literally teaching himself to do all of this and everything. It's quite a different world from where we are now. And then as things go on, like he had one for the VIC-20 called Defenda, Defenda, not quite Defender, but Defenda, which is clearly like a not that well put together clone of Defender, and he admits to as much even within the documentary portion of it. They renamed it later as Andes Attack, Andes Attack, like the Andes Mountains. And as time goes on, he starts going from things being derivative to him deciding that he wants to make things a little bit more his own. And so he starts throwing his twist on games and coming up with, like, it's kind of like Space Invaders, but imagine, for example, if you were controlling two ships, one that's on the left side of the screen and one that's on the right, like vertical. One's vertical, one's horizontal, and you have enemies coming at you from both sides. And you're trying to... And it breaks your brain. It's one I had not played back in the day. That one was called Laser Zone, and you have the VIC-20 version and the Commodore 64 version are both playable on here. You have Grid Runner, which is similar to Centipede, but he definitely put a twist on it where there's this laser from the left-hand side of the screen and this laser from underneath you that are potentially both, they're going to create the mushroom-like things when they meet. It's like a timed thing. And they can obliterate you if you're in their path. So Grid Runner is probably one of his first major success stories. And so as a result, it's also the only brand new game that you get within this is a remake version of Grid Runner that was specifically made for this collection. And it's quite good. It's a very interesting collection of games. Hover Bubber, which is near and dear to my heart. That's one I grew up with on the Commodore 64. Where you're looking at a Pac-Man style, like where Pac-Man eats dots. In this case, you're mowing your grass, but doing so after stealing your neighbor's lawnmower. And so your neighbor is coming back trying to get his mower back from you.
Jeez.
And so you're supposed to mow the lawn. Do not mow the flowers, or otherwise the other neighbor who owns the flowers is going to try and come and take the mower. So now you have two people trying to get the mower from you, and you have your dog Rover that you can sick on the neighbors as well. But then after a while, he loses his patience and then he won't listen to you anymore. Like, that's the kind of wild things conceptually that you're dealing with. You have one called Sheep in Space, where it's kind of like a Defender shoot 'em up style thing, but then you have to graze on grass as the sheep in order to heal. So
I love it.
It is very...
How well do
unique.
the games hold up? Because there's, 40-some games in this?
So they hold up decently well for what they are, and I really do have to say that the caveat is for what they are. If you are used to modern gaming and you go back to this, you're probably not going to have that much of a good time. If you grew up on this stuff like I did, this is a dream come true, and because I'm fascinated with video game history. And so I am absolutely the target audience for this. That's really what it boils down to, is for someone who lived it or wants to learn more about it, because there's only a handful of these that I had even heard of. And then Jeff Minter also trying to do things like, I'm trying to look for the right word here, but light synth style stuff, where it's more like putting light shows to music but on a computer, where it's not even a video game so much as you can adjust this to go with music and like that style of stuff. He was really trying to think outside of the box with the stuff that he was doing. And these days he's doing like VR style stuff. Like there was a VR version of the game Polybius that was the urban myth that wasn't a real thing. Well, he turned it into a real thing in 2016. But we don't get that in the collection. In fact, the most recent one we get, besides the remake of Grid Runner, which is brand new, the newest game that we get in this whole collection is his version of Tempest 2000 for the Atari Jaguar, which is considered a system seller. It's one of the reasons to own an Atari Jaguar is his version of Tempest 2000. But here's the caveat with that. If you own the Atari 50, that game's already on there. So you're not getting that one. Like it's nothing that you don't already have access to on the Atari 50 part of it. And then if you go from before that, then it's 1991, I think, is the newest game on this. He's made a bunch of interesting newer games, but they're not available on this collection.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I was hoping that we would see stuff like Neon or Space Giraffe included on there.
I would have been especially thrilled with that. I'm going to tell you, it's a buy it anyway for me because I'm the target audience, and I desperately want Digital Eclipse to make every single one of these style of games. Make one for Activision, make one for Epix. Dear God, make one for Epix. See if you can talk to Electronic Arts and do the early Electronic Arts stuff that was happening for the Commodore 64 because they were pioneers of that time. And I will say that the disadvantage that Jeff Minter is at here is he's one man, it's one company, versus the variety that you get with an Atari, where it's the history of an entire company and it's multiple different game developers and just a large selection of arcade games and a large selection of computers. There is no way, from a variety standpoint, you're not going to be able to match that with one person's output. But it's a fascinating look into the man's life. I wanted to be the guy's friend, like, after seeing this. Like, he seems like a really cool guy. Likes to take his time on his farm where he has llamas and sheep and stuff. Like, he's an interesting cat for sure.
So yeah, let's talk price. The game clocks in at $30. First off, what are your thoughts on the price? Do you think it's worth picking up for the price?
I think that it may be a little on the high side for the price when you compare it, because I think the Atari 50 is not too far off from that on the price point, and you do get a lot more variety with the Atari one, the Atari 50.
Yeah.
I would say that it's especially something that would be good to pick up on sale. Or again, if like me, you are especially fascinated by the history of video games, then you will probably get something out of it. The documentary sections themselves, the videos are really good.
Oh yeah.
And
the
again,
other question I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
Were the interviews uncensored for you?
I think so. I'm not
because the game's rated T for teen, but I heard a few F-bombs drop in that documentary.
I wouldn't be surprised. That might be
subtitles were bleeped, like the subtitles were censored, but the actual audio wasn't. Yeah, so I'm wondering if that's going to be patched or updated, or if that
could be. That
or
could
if the
be.
fact that it's documentary, they're just like, yeah, teens could handle a couple F-bombs.
Yeah, I think that they do that with the movies where you normally can get by with one or two F-bombs, and still get a PG-13 rating. Oh, one very, very, very important factor with this is the epilepsy warning, and boy, are they not kidding. There are so many flashing items, like the strobe effects and everything in this. So if you are sensitive to that, stay away. Just you are not going to have a good time if you are sensitive to that sort of thing, because that
Aki,
is one
if you're listening, stay away from this game.
For real. But no, I couldn't be more thrilled with it, and I just because of it is so clear the amount of love and care that the developers put into this. Yeah. And that's what I feel like deserves to be rewarded. Digital Eclipse, between this and the Atari 50, and I want to buy the Karateka one that they put out as well. I've not bought that yet, but now I'm thinking that that's going to be on my to buy list.
They handled
is that how you pronounce it?
I thought it was Karateka, but
I've heard it multiple ways myself.
Karateka is the adult rated parody.
There you go.
Isn't it Carrot Cake? Yeah.
Carrot Cake, yeah. That is.
That gotta be. I don't know why. That's what I'm going to call it now. From now on.
I like it.
But for real, Digital Eclipse gets all of this from now on. Like they get to handle the history of video games for all companies, please.
I do wonder what's next, because this is a very niche decision for them to go with Jeff Minter. I think it's fantastic. But they were just purchased by Atari, and which I hope, Atari 50 already happened. It's going to be 10 years until Atari 60. So what are they doing in the meantime? I don't know, but give them everything, right? I hope they can figure that out because they're the kings of it. I honestly feel like this is going to inspire other companies to sort of experiment with the same format, but getting access to a lot of that stuff. So much of these like series are wrapped up in red tape with different publishers and stuff. I'm just really curious what they do. I know Atari's not just going to let them do a bunch of niche games like this. They're probably going to do something bigger. It seems like they would, just because it's going to sell more, But I
wholeheartedly agree.
I'm curious, but everything they do is great, and I'm excited to check this out. I also love the idea of it focusing on one dude, and you made a point about the educational aspect. His education, I love seeing. Atari 50 is cool, but you're seeing games made by teams, small teams, but over the course of time, this is literally I got one guy's journey from like learning how to use a computer to applying it to his own visions with Llamas.
It's a really cool story to watch and click through.
Cool.
They even have notebooks there with like code that he's written down like in a tiny notebook for like, like here's the memory address for this, and like he's trying to figure out how the code works, and he's written it down like in an actual notebook, and it's his handwriting and stuff. It's just awesome. Love that. I would actually say
Eclipse goes above and beyond on these. It's impressive.
For real. And I do think Epix might be the one that they could potentially get because a lot of the Epix games are already in, like Antstream Arcade, for example. A lot of these Jeff Minter ones are also in Antstream Arcade. So the rights are out there, I'm thinking, because otherwise, you would think the Antstream wouldn't have access to them.
I'd love to see something with Sega and like a lot of their early Coleco and Atari titles.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Like, tell me about Zaxxon.
Yeah, what do you guys want to see? Like, what would be the?
I want to see a Coleco compilation, and I want anything cool. At all to have the game Venture on it.
Yeah,
I didn't play that. That's my first console, though. Connecticut Leather Company, baby.
Very nice. Good call.
Absolutely.
All right, well, Glenn, that is it for you. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting about Llamasoft with us. Do you have any final thoughts or final words before I let you go and move on?
Yeah, I'm looking for what it is that he said, but what Jeff Minter was saying, he makes them to play them.
I think that quote really whips the llama's ass.
Yes.
That was awesome.
Oh, man.
That was a great review. Really love that.
Thanks.
Cool. Glenn, we will let you get going. Do you have any final words?
Yeah, no, just that I'm going to use Jeff's words. I make them to play them.
Heck yeah.
All right. Have yourself a good night then.
Yeah, thanks.
Play them to review.
All right, next up, we got Death of a Wish, developed by melessthanthree, published by Syndicate Atomic, released March 11th on Steam for $19.99. The Neo Sanctum shall fall, claim retribution against the theocratic fates as you master vicious hack-and-slash combat in this action RPG where style is salvation. Pernell and Andy, both of you check this out. Who wants to start?
I got a little intro, if you want me to read that first.
Yeah, go for it.
Pernell, that cool, man?
That's absolutely wonderful. Knock
it out. All right. I wrote this up, so be into it. Death of a Wish plunges players into the heart of a nightmare in this gripping hack and slash RPG. With its pulsating chalkboard style aesthetic and an electric undercurrent of tension, the game sets a dark and foreboding tone that the player must navigate through. Assume the role of Christian as he embarks on a path of vengeance against the cult that raised him. Journey through a realm fueled by nightmares, facing off against grotesque monsters and nefarious individuals. Utilize flashes of light and audio cues to strategically take down your enemies, ensuring each battle is fought with finesse to stave off your encroaching corruption. With a more dynamic combat system, players can tailor their playstyle by mastering discovered arias, virtues, and familiars, honing skills in parrying, dodging, and breaking foes. Death of a Wish builds upon its predecessor, offering an action-packed experience that sustains intensity from start to finish. Take it away, Pernell.
All right, so now he went through all the technical stuff because I ain't got no mind space for that. I will tell you this. I don't understand what the hell's going on a lot of the time as far as narrative. Within reason, like I understand enough to go, I want to press forward, but not enough to explain it to you. What I will say, though, is that I like this enough to say that I went and looked up the prequel of the game, saw it on sale, and bought it sight unseen. Because there's a lot going on with this title that is freaking legit and deserves people's attention. You might see imagery of this on the internet and go, what the hell's with this childhood chicken scratch that's on my screen? And I will tell you that do not judge a book by its still image cover. You need to experience the game at its maximum flow capacity to understand what makes this visually special. Gameplay wise, this is almost like an action RPG, Devil May Cry, religious dogma game. So, how does that work? Why would I make that distinction and that comparison? Well, that's because in the gameplay schema, after a certain series of tutorial scenarios, you are thrust into the main game proper. And it is in that main game that you discover that you are marked. What marked means in this world means that you are dealing with an increasing stream of corruption intake. What is corruption? Don't find out when it hits 100%. It's almost like Breath of Fire, Dragon Quarter. Don't find out what happens when you get 100% unless something particularly special happens, like Breath of the Wild, Breath of Fire, Dragon Quarter. So I keep wanting to say Breath of the Wild. This game is not
Zelda
wild.
on the mind.
I don't want to. Maybe it's because of that damn Bit Brigade concert. Anyway, what this game does is it invokes this corruption system. When you enter scenarios or screens, rather, when monsters show up to play, you have to just decimate them as best as you can. But while this combat is taking place, your corruption is slowly ticking up, and you do not want it to go so high. So what happens is, hence the Devil May Cry comparison, you need to kill these guys with style and finesse as quickly as possible. The better you do, the better you rank. The better you rank, the more of a corruption decrease you will earn, which means you will be breaking your balls to fight well and fight flashy. But what are the tools at your disposal to do this? Well, you have a light attack and a heavy attack. Pretty simple concept there. Light attacks are good for quick and frantic blows. Heavy attacks are good for doing slow but massive damage while also leaning towards breaking an enemy's defensive wall. In addition, you can dodge enemy attacks when they come at you, but you can also parry those attacks by dashing into them as they are attacking you. If you pull that off, you'll do a massive parry, which does a large amount of damage to the basically to their break meter. Break it down enough, they get frozen in place, and you can beat the ever-living holy snot out of them while you take their damage down at an epileptically high, strong rate. It's freaking delicious in how it works out. You have 2 R's you can equip at one time. These R's work both within the form of elemental affinity and also attack style. You might have sort of something that looks like a bit of a buzz blade in the form of aqua attacks. You might have a slash in the form of electric attacks. That's how these things go. And enemies have strengths and weaknesses to these things. Part of the flash involves you using and comboing these things in such a way where you kind of switch between them on the fly, doing good damage, dodging, evading, yada, yada, yada. You also get familiars, too, that can be used as sort of like, usually your ranged attackers, like a laser beam or a bomb blast. As you defeat enemies and hopefully not get your corruption banked up, you'll unlock experience points or LA, which can be used both to level up your character in one of 5 different traits and also can be used at certain merchants on the map to buy further buffs. Buffs come in the form of, here comes the jargon, virtues and prayers. Oh, yeah. Virtues are pretty much used to like sort of give you passive buffs, like killing enemies to heal yourself after you take a bit of damage, that sort of thing. You get a certain number of virtue points. You equip enough virtues to max up that or meet the value of those virtue totals. Prayers are buffs to your aria attacks, which can be used to make them special or more improved and better, like doing more damage to certain types of enemies and the like, or whatever. So you'll be earning these things, buying these things, equipping these things, and building yourself into the best Christian you can be. Yeah, that's also the main character's name, not the Christian. Anyway, so
Thanks.
The reason why you also, one thing I want to mention about these battles is also particularly interesting that it goes on like a lot of games like this is that you can heal yourself in combat by way of using a specific item. That item is not particularly common. You will come across it fairly frequently early in the game if you like to explore the entirety of areas of the map, but over time that will become less frequent and you might find yourself potentially running out. So you might be asking yourself, well, how do you go about playing a game that can be challenging if health items come far and few? And my answer to you, dear listener, is use the other actually really cool aspect of this game, which is the rewind feature. So what this game is intended to do is have you come into a battle. You're trying to kick the snot out of an enemy group, or you might be trying to learn what the enemy is capable of doing. But unfortunately for you, not quite getting the grasp of what they're doing, and they're beating you down to a sad pulp. Well then, rather than let yourself die and let your corruption spike, because that's what happens when you die in this game, you can use the rewind feature to go back to the beginning of the battle and the state you were in at the beginning of said battle, try again. It's good for that in the sense you can go into a battle and just kind of walk around watching an enemy do its thing, just learning the flow and ebb of the battle. And then when you feel comfortable giving it a solid college try, rewind and give it a real attempt. And if you don't do too well, rewind again because you got a certain number of these things. Unfortunately, though, if you go back to a cross bonfire, because somehow they decided to combine religion and Dark Souls by making a bonfire made of crosses, you will regenerate all the enemies as well as regain your rewind. But hey, at that point, you have experience. You might snuff guys out in a more efficient manner, so it's not all that bad of a situation, if you ask me. I will say the only odd parts of this game, which aren't really bad so much as they could be considered things you get used to as you play, is the art style can be a detriment as well as a blessing. It's really cool to look at the art and effect, but when you're trying to learn enemy patterns and cues to do your dodges and parries and seeing scribble clops slashing at you on a whim, it might be hard for you to pick up on the idea to say, this is when he's attacking, now's the time to parry. But
yeah, I think it's funny that we went from Jeff Minter to this, so it's like a seizure-ific game to another seizure-ific game.
Yeah.
Very
but
much so.
Absolutely. But if you get into the zone, or rather you pick up on some of the audio cues that can come up at points during the game, you may find yourself better equipped to do these dodges and parries. And I was getting better at that too, but there were certain enemies that was like, man, this guy's just a hulking mess of scribble. I can't quite pick up on when he's going to strike. I just got to avoid him. No parrying this chat. But that might be an issue. And in addition to that, the map is also drawn in, sort of like chicken scratch of sorts. So it's done artistically, but until you get used to it, you might find yourself going, what the hell was that? Where am I? What is there? This is a map, I guess. But again, I'll give them credit in the sense that they took this art style and they stuck with it. And it does work in a lot of ways. And once you get used to it, it works in more ways than that. I guess the last element to this that I will say could be a potential detriment to the albeit collectathon allers is the fact that areas of the game are broken up by, I guess like chapter or verse, I guess it was called. And when you move on, the map you were on before is not necessarily accessible anymore. So you might find yourself needing to explore to the fullest before it's time to move forward and never look back. Almost like reality. You can't rewind time. Anyway, this game is fun. I liked it. The art style is great. The tension is great. The pacing is great. And it makes a stylistic choice that I feel makes it stand out from other games on the market right now. I think the closest game I can think of that compares to this is probably like Rakugaki Showtime or something. If anybody's ever even heard of that.
I don't even know what you said there.
Nope.
That's a lot of words. But look it up. It's a pretty cool little cartoony brawler. But yes, this game is solid. I like it. I recommend it to people. What do you think, my friend Barry of the Sperry?
I just wanted to touch on that art style you were talking about too, because when I first started playing it, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be into this. Even when Joe was like sending me the clips of it, I was like, this looks really cool, but I don't know if I can like hang with this. And I mean, it's that kind of game. Once you get used to it, it's awesome. I mean, the art style alone is very interesting, and like I said, once you get used to it, it's awesome. Plenty of content. The story gripped me in a few areas, but I was mostly just into like exploring, discovering, and I really like the difficult battles. Battles are very hard, until you start figuring out audio cues, character flashing cues too, and yeah, I had a really good time with it actually.
Oh, well, let us talk price on this one. It is $19.99 on Steam. If you pick it up before the 21st, it is on sale for $17.99. What do the two you think about that?
Well, I think it's already kind of pretty much on the buy spectrum. Like I said, I bought the prequel because of this. And if you find yourself thinking, well, I want to try, but maybe not $19.99, well, guess what? Buy the prequel for the sale price. And if it happens to click with you in such a wonderful way, to jump on this because it will clearly be worth it to you monetarily then. But price aside, I'm going to call it a buy.
Yeah, I would say buy it as well. I mean, even if you're on the fence with it, you could get the first one. There's also a demo available on Steam, so
there you go.
Try it out. But I enjoyed it a lot, and for that price point, yeah, I would definitely buy it.
Cool, sounds good. All right, Andy, that is it for you. We will let you get going. Do you have any final thoughts, final words before you let us move on with the show?
Yeah,
let us go, Andy.
I will let you go. Go about your ways. Leave me. Thank you for having me on the show. As always, party till you drop, thrash till you die, and have a good time, guys.
Cool beans.
Have a good evening, buddy.
Night.
Layers.
All right, next up, Contra Operation Galuga, developed by WayForward Technologies, published by Konami, released March 13th on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC for $39.99 when the Red Falcon terrorist group takes over the Galuga Islands. Off the coast of New Zealand, elite Contra commandos Bill Reiser and Lance Bean spring into action, initiating an all-out war in which the fate of mankind hangs in the balance. The true Contra legacy begins now. Grant, tell us about your time with Contra Operation Galuga.
Galuga. Galuga is made by WayForward. WayForward made Contra 4. I'd forgot that. Fantastic Contra with soundtrack by Vert.
Yes,
which just did a great job with that game. Contra's back again. They keep like dipping their toe in the Contra waters every so often. There's been a couple of weird ones the last few years, but this is definitely a return to form. I was a big Contra junkie back in the day. Super C, even the super mean PS1 version was a lot of fun. But yeah, it is the same, S power up side scrolling Contra that you know and love. I will say they've taken a lot of steps to improve, let's just say, quality of life, modernize the game a bit. I think people were wondering what they would do, and there are several things in this game that make it different and modernized compared to the titles we know. One is it now has full 360 aiming with the left stick. And you can pull the right trigger to lock your movement. So it's very Metroid in that regard. So you can stop the left side of the screen and really aim at something at the top right side of the screen, take it out. You can use the D-pad for aiming and moving if you want, but you're locked to that 8-way aiming. Yeah. So it really it makes crouching and movement a little funny with analog stick. I prefer D-pad in general, but it works fine for this game. You can double jump by default. That's new. One of the characters can hover. So instead of the double jump, they have a hover instead. You can dash in this game. One of the characters has an invincibility to dash, where you can dash through bullets. You can also unlock that ability for other characters as well. You can climb. You can hang from the ceiling. And here's the big one. You have a health bar. So you can change it. You can change it to one hit kills. It's an option for you when you start a game. But normally you have 3 pips of health, and so you can get hit 3 times before you die. And some of the characters have varying amounts of health bar. You can't turn off the double jump. Like if you want to make this old school, you can do a couple things. You can make it harder. You can give yourself one hit kill, but you can't turn off double jump. There's some stuff that's just going to be in there. But yeah, it's a bit different. It was a surprise to see that, but it also makes a lot of sense, I think. I mean, Contra has been known for being mean, but so what they're doing is giving people the option to make it mean, and giving you a health bar as a default instead. So,
which I like. I've gotten further than I probably would have in a traditional Contra game. I like the perks that you could get in the game.
The perks is cool. Since you mentioned that, we're going to go to perks. So you play the game, you do anything. You play arcade mode, you play story mode, you can unlock challenges later, you get perks. And you can add 2 perks to any character when you start a level. And the perks can be, the first one I got is start every level with the S power up, with the spread shot, just because it's a classic. My brother's got the giant, spread shot on a t-shirt. It was just a thing for us. So I went that way. You can shoot. There's a perk for adding an extra life to your character. There is a perk for longer invincibility after death or getting hit. And then there are character-specific perks. So some characters may change they can increase the height of their double jump or make their dash invincible or other things depending on the abilities of that character. There are other perks too. There are global ones. You can increase the number of lives you get globally. There are also OST options. So I didn't know this, but I played the demo. And it turns out if you play the demo on a system and then buy this game, it automatically unlocks the full Contra 4 OST to play in arcade mode, which is pretty great because that soundtrack is fantastic. Music in this game is good as well. Other OST options, apparently you can unlock the entire 8-bit Contra suite as well. You can also unlock the entire Castlevania soundtrack to play in this game, and you can also unlock like a variety of old Konami music. It shows a picture of Vic Viper there, so I guess you might get some like Gradius Life Force music too. I don't actually know, but I haven't made enough credits to buy all the OST options. My favorite is there is an alternate remix album that was done by a number of different artists, some Brave Wave artists, some others. Richard EB? I know I've met the guy, but I still don't know how to say his name correctly. But he did some crazy metal tracks for it. So you have to buy these. These are like in the perks section. So I had to grind a bit. I will say this has been a criticism, but like you got to play this game several times through. You need to play arcade mode several times through to get money to buy these perks, and the additional OSTs are expensive, but I did play enough to get that remix album so I could listen to all the tracks in the remix album. Is the remix album available online to listen to? No. Will it ever be available? Probably not, because it's Konami, and that's too bad. So you're gonna be listening to rips, or you're gonna be buying this OST in game. But the remixes are fantastic. So
you said Brave Wave. Did you work on anything?
I did not. They have 4 different composers that contributed tracks to the game, but I was not in that pile. But that's okay.
I mean, you already covered the entire Contra soundtrack, really.
I did. It reminded me. I did cover the entire Contra soundtrack and fit it all into 1 minute. I did an arrangement of the entire Contra OST in 1 minute. It's available online. Feel free to check that out.
I believe I have heard that. It was excellent.
Well, thank you so much. It was 1 minute is not a lot of time, so I had to like put melodies from some levels on the rhythm tracks from other levels. It was actually a really fun kind of puzzle. But yeah, love it's
one of our favorite songs to play. Like in between segments on the show, if we do an interview and then we go into the show, I'll usually play that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Because it's just a quick, fun little song that you get through in a minute, and you're like, all right, let's do more show.
60 seconds, baby. We talked about playing that at a Viking Guitar show, and I was like, do you guys realize this is like learning an entire game soundtrack for 60 seconds worth of live performance? And so we didn't do it. So yeah, I think the weapons in this game are fantastic. You can carry 2 at a time and switch between them, which is very Contra hardcore era. You can one cool thing it does is if you already have 2 weapons in your arsenal, you can pick up, if you accidentally pick up a weapon, it will spit the other one out of your body, like it will pop it back on the ground. So if you accidentally pick up F, which is fire, which no one wants, and you lose your spread shot, you can just run back and grab it, which is cool. And also the weapon stack. So your spread shot will start with like, I guess 3 or 4
it's 3
spreads.
And then it goes to 5.
Yeah, and then it goes to 5. So you can pick up additional weapons of the same kind, and you'll get an upgraded version of that. And there's also a perk for starting with that upgraded version, which I did purchase as well. You can also detonate your current weapon, and it will turn into like a special move. Every weapon has a special move, and if you decide to destroy that weapon when it's in your possession, it will throw a bunch of stuff on screen or create a force field. So that's pretty cool. If you're playing on higher difficulties, you're going to need stuff like that. So I'm actually kind of interested in seeing some advanced play in this game. And the last thing you can do is if you fill up this little meter, you can call in a weapon upgrade. So if you don't have a weapon, but you have that meter filled, you can basically call the copter and it'll drop a weapon for you. The game plays great. I feel like it plays like you'd expect a Contra game to play. The climbing and the hanging from the ceiling are a little finicky, but it really does play well. The story is like the most basic Contra stuff. There's a gravity weapon, but that's the only spoiler I'll give you. It's just exactly what you'd expect from Contra. You just kind of moving through that stuff to get to the action. You play as multiple characters. I finished the story campaign in about an hour and 45 minutes is what my time was. That was after, deaths and restarting. You aren't required to start at the beginning of the game. You can start from whatever level you started on, and all of your lives are refilled. And then arcade mode is just that. You start at the top, but you don't get any of the cutscenes. And you do get credits though for how far you get into arcade mode. And there's also a challenges mode. I found the challenges mode to be not very fun. It's basically things like beat this portion of a level without firing a gun, or speed running your way through a level, or beating a boss with a certain weapon loadout. And I think the main reason I ended up not enjoying it is because I got very used to the health bar. So when you start doing challenge modes, they're all one-hit kill challenges, all of them. And so you just sort of, you basically have gotten used to a way to play the game. And I think that they're very challenging. The challenges are challenging even without the one-hit kill part. So I did some of them, but I ended up not spending much time in there, but it's cool they're there. Yeah, so there's no online multiplayer in this game. That's a disappointment. However, I did try this out with my brother using the Steam Remote Play Together feature, and it's awesome. We went through like half the arcade mode together. So I would call, if you have a PC that can play this thing, I would absolutely go that direction, because you can have up to 4 people join your session. So they're essentially just streaming the game and playing on your copy of the game, and it works fantastic. So in that regard, it definitely has online multiplayer. So that was awesome. And Contra is always best with people, as you guys know. Yeah. So yeah, game looks good. It's somewhat low definition, I think, but it's very readable, which is always a problem in Contra games. They always make sure the enemy bullets are on top of your bullets. I never really found a problem with readability, which is great. I did notice some slowdown on I have a 2070 Super, so it's not a paltry card or anything, but I hit some slowdown with a couple of the bosses, and there are no graphics options in this game at all. Yeah. And so you can't turn on aliasing and you can't turn down detail. There's nothing like that. So that's a little weird, but it's just something I ran into. Not a lot of accessibility in the game other than easy mode. Easy's there, but the game isn't as mean as other Contras. When you restart levels, you get all your lives back. There's a way that Ikaruga handled what you might call leveling up in a game, where you game over and you have to start from the beginning, but you get more lives every time. Kind of liked that method of playing, so you don't see the entire game so quickly. You're sort of forced to play through earlier stages again, just so you get better. But they made their decision, and I think it works fine. I just blasted through the game in no time. So that's how it is. I will say the only real bummers here, I will say there's a lot of repetition. There's not a lot of like big set pieces in the game. You'll see all the enemies in a level in maybe the first minute, and then you'll just be fighting those people through the entire level. So the levels don't really evolve much. There's some pretty cool 2D, 3D stuff in the game, which is cool. The paywalls are pretty high for the perks. I had to play through the game multiple times to get stuff.
Yeah, but then again, stingy with the credits in this game.
You know, if you blast through the arcade mode on easy, which the first time I did that, I made it to the last boss. I got enough I got a big pile of credits and was able to buy the OST I wanted. So I think it's a thing where you're forced to actually grind. There is the challenges part of the game, but that wasn't something I enjoyed as much. And because there's a lot of repetition with the enemies, you do find yourself you're fighting another train car. It looks just like the train car you fought on the last screen, and so it's kind of I don't know. It can get a little old, but the perks are very powerful, and there is a character you can unlock for a whole lot of money that I have not unlocked. I don't know what he does, but I'm gonna get there. So,
did you do the Konami code?
No. Can you do no? Well, you just don't tell me anything. No, why? No, I did not. So, okay, I'm going to go do the Konami code. Don't tell me what it does.
Okay.
I'm going to go do the Konami code.
You're going to do it like right now?
I mean, I can't. Should I? That's like dead air. You do it after my review. I'll do it after my review. I'll listen to the Expeditions review and do that, and then I'll scream and interrupt Pernell.
Yeah, well, it would be me, and you can interrupt me. That's fine.
Oh, it's you? Oh, sweet. I'm excited about that review. Yes. Okay. Don't know why I didn't do the Konami code. That would make perfect sense. Didn't do it. I'll also say there's a lot that the game doesn't tell you about characters. So we were just randomly picking people, and we realized one of the characters, when you pick up the fire power up, his default fire is super long. Or if you pick up the female character, the spread shot is a completely different gun. It's like this Samus style blaster that has a charge mode in it, and the game does not tell you this. I think. See, you didn't know. I feel like they want you to discover these characters, but if they don't tell you what they do, you're not going to go try to pick up the different weapons with every single character to discover that. So I feel like that would. You're never going to pick up
machine gun.
No, but you probably should. Well, machine gun with the robot does this crazy boomerang shot because that's what Adam defaulted to. So I wish they'd tell you that. A little more information about the characters would be nice. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I did really enjoy it, and multiplayer is absolutely the way to go. If you have someone on the couch, or if you can do the PC thing and get other players to play with you, they don't have to buy the game to do that. So
very cool. Well, the game clocks in at $40. What are your thoughts on Contra Operation Galuga?
Galuga is that's the noise that my brain made when I saw how expensive it was. This is a very expensive game. I don't know why it's this much money. If you look at the last release from WayForward, which is River City Girls, $15. This is Konami flexing their muscles. I would feel bad I feel bad that they may not get as many sales because Konami has chosen to do this. What I will say is that if you have friends on PC and that love Contra, split that game. Someone pick it up. You can play online together, and it makes it worth it. But that is a whole lot of money. This is a solid $25 game, but $40. I get it. Really just depends on how much you like Contra. I think it's a fantastic Contra game, especially with multiple people. But it's not a very long campaign. I would expect like a 3-4 hour campaign at $40. So I enjoyed it. I think you should definitely try the demo. Maybe watch for a sale, split it with a buddy if you can. But other than that, I just feel like it's too expensive. So I don't know where I land because of that. But I'll say the game is great and is worth picking up, and it's up to you to decide if the 40 is a bit too much.
Yeah, it just seems like games are getting more like River City Girls. You said was what, 15? River City Girls 2 was 40.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it really?
I picked it up on sale for 28 because it was 30% off. I'm like, I haven't seen it that cheap. I'm going to pick it up.
Okay. Well, there you go. I didn't realize it was that much. I was looking at 0 because that was 2 years ago. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess that's where we are. So I found that for the length of the game, it felt expensive to me, but at the same time, it's a great game. I really enjoyed it as an old Contra bro. I like their changes. I like their updates. And I guess I can play with the Life Force music. So there's that.
Nice.
So yeah.
All right. Moving on. Next game is Expeditions, a MudRunner game developed by Saber Interactive, published by Focus Entertainment, released March 5th on Xbox One, Series X, and a Switch, PS4, PS5 for $49.99. PC for $39.99. Embark on scientific expeditions with this new off-road adventure from the creators of MudRunner and SnowRunner. Lead research missions as you drive a variety of all-terrain vehicles using high-tech tools and managing your camp and crew to ensure your success in the wild. Chris, tell us about your time with Expeditions, a MudRunner game.
Okay, Expeditions, a MudRunner game. So this is the latest, I guess, in a series of games from this developer that made other MudRunner games and SnowRunner. I see those from time to time in the Switch eShop, but never really checked them out until now. But I specifically requested the PS5 version because I wanted to be like, I want to see, because this game seems to be like all about graphics and stuff. So I want to make sure that I'm not playing the watered down version, as it were. I guess. So that was a mistake because while the game is much nicer, it lives in the same place as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Oh no!
And so peeling myself away from the greatest adventure ever to truck around some rocks and stuff that was superhuman restraint necessary. So yeah, but I did manage to actually play through some of this. So what this is kind of a From what I understand, it's kind of a new take on the on what's kind of more of an open exploration type of game, but this one's a little bit more kind of laser, a little more focused, let's call it, into like specific missions. So the general gist of the game is that you, nameless driver person, are to purchase a truck, and different kinds of trucks kind of do different things. They, deal with different kinds of terrain in different ways. They also have different ways of carrying your inventory, whether it be your extra supplies or like a flatbed or a trailer or something that you need to complete one of the quests. And the cool thing about the missions is that they tell you ahead of time. They're like, you're going to need this and this. And so you do kind of get to, have it, not start a mission with a completely wrong loadout. So that's kind of nice. But that's typical for a video game. So when you're thinking, oh, I could just start off with a whole different wrong loadout, like that kind of hints at the kind of freedom that this game gives you in terms of like how you're going to deal with the game once it starts. So you pick out your truck, your loadout, all this other stuff. It costs a certain amount of money. And you get into this place, and the stages, it's basically multiple stages broken up across several different kind of worlds, if you will. So like the terrain is going to be pretty consistent across the different worlds. But it's planet Earth. It's going to be a bunch of rocks and water and dirt and stuff. No huge surprises here. I don't think you go to outer space, but I could be wrong. There's a lot of DLCs, so maybe there is something. But the point of it is that you are driving your truck to do specific off-road missions in a way that is totally off-road. That is to say, it's not like dirt road. It's not like grassy field. Like you're driving straight up the side of a mountain, straight over a bunch of rocks, straight through a gosh darn river. And you got to learn, because you have full control over this vehicle, and I'll talk about the control in a minute. You have full control over this vehicle, so you are basically the arbiter of the fate of your of getting across this tiny creek in order to pick up a MacGuffin on the other side and bring it back for a delivery. So let's talk about the controls a little bit. So you have different things, like you can go from your front wheel drive to your all wheel drive, and you'd think, okay, well, I should just do all wheel drive all the time. These are some nasty rocks. Well, you have limited fuel, and your fuel consumption is, greatly increased by, utilizing different, more powerful moves that your vehicle has. So you have different things like messing with the differential and turning on all-wheel drive, and I don't know what a differential is, so I just kind of glazed over that. But it is necessary to get you out of certain situations. You have different tools that, like, again, you can choose to load out for certain amounts of money, but then again, that's going to affect your payout, because obviously, but you got to spend money to make money, right? So, like, wisely deciding what you're going to bring with you is very important, because there's different things like, like I said, your truck has all these different things that it can do, and they each have like a different combination of like hold this button, push this button, shift into this gear. Like you literally hold down the R button and move the right stick to shift gears. Things like that. It's pretty cool. The reason why they can do this is because you are never traveling fast. We'll get back to that. So the other thing that you can do is that you can use your tools to do different things, like a winch, for instance. So you can, if you get stuck, or just to get over like something like, a big old hole, or like something where you'll normally like maybe crash, you can basically attach a winch to the nearest tree and then pull yourself up through up to a different area or whatever. There's even a button to let out half of the air out of your tires, which is of course a way that you can gain a lot more traction. But again, you're burning up, fuel in doing so. But like literally, you can just kind of empty your tires of air and just, truck it up the side of a mountain kind of situation. You'll be doing this a lot, actually. There's a couple of things, I'm not getting ahead of myself, but there's a couple of tools that do kind of take the realism out a little bit, but they're very welcome when you're actually going to use them. One of them is a kind of jack that if your truck turns completely over, you can just use the jack to turn yourself back around, but you only have limited uses. So if you catch yourself upside down and you don't have a jack, you're starting that stage over again completely. Like there's no panic button or anything like that to kind of get yourself back on the road. Like you're basically, job's over, so now you got to start it over, which can be frustrating to some players. But like I said, they give you the availability of a bunch of tools to kind of make this job easier, but in no way is the job easy. Like I said, you're going to be basically dealing with driving over stuff just at the pace of a turtle. I mean, for the most part, if you're trying to get somewhere, it's never going to be a straight line. The game's always going to throw like some different, crazy stuff at you, and you're just going to kind of have to learn how your vehicle gets over like certain rocks, or how it deals with how a winch works in a certain situation versus like a jack. And like it's pretty cool, like in a sense. Like I said, it's just not. It's a car driving game, but it's, there's no timer, there's no speed element. Well, maybe there's a timer in some quests. I didn't play all of them, but in the ones I played, it was just like, you take your time and do it slow and do it right, that kind of deal. And like I said, the quests themselves, it's usually just go here and do this and then come back. Like it's the quests themselves are not, there's no. They tell me there's a story in this game, but I don't think there is. I haven't seen one anyway. There are characters, though. So one thing that you can do is, as part of your loadout, you can actually hire specialists. And what they basically are is a stat boost. So you can hire a specialist like I don't know what they're called, a hydrocitor or something like that, just a water guy, and the water guy can reduce the water damage that can happen to your truck. So if you're going into a stage with a lot of water damage, you might consider that guy. Different things like that. And like I said, building your loadout actually is super important, not only for how it helps you get over the terrain, but like I said, balancing that whole being able to take like more gas with you, more parts, so you can fix your truck if you get damaged, because you can get damaged, and still have room for like, the thing to complete your quest. It's very much like a thinking puzzly kind of game. And like I said, it's not action packed. It's kind of slow, contemplative, and it does a good job of like kind of, building that tension in your brain of like, because if you're in a stage, some of these stages can be quite involved, and you can be like in there for an hour or something. And if you turn that truck over and you don't have a way to get yourself out of your situation, you lost an hour of real time that you could have been playing Final Fantasy. So
you can always spawn back at the base, but then you gotta drive all the way back to where you were. I had to respawn at the base so many times in this game because I kept getting stuck.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, though, that like even though I got stuck a lot of times, sometimes I would figure out how to get myself unstuck, and that's a really good feeling.
Yeah.
Kind of a relief and stuff. But yeah, it's not, a lot of times, you just you try something, doesn't pay off, and then you just gotta kind of eat the losses as far as that goes. But I quite enjoyed it as a simulation. I thought it was pretty cool, and the graphics are very, very nice.
Oh yeah.
Not only do the vistas look really stunning, you also one of the tools that you have at your disposal is a drone that you can go overhead and like kind of plan out your path without wasting gas or anything like that, and that's actually really cool looking too. You got working binoculars and things like that. So like all kinds of ways you can like look around and really take in the environment, even though it's that little boulder right in front of you that's going to wreck your day.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, I've played a good bit of SnowRunner and a bit of MudRunner as well, and this is obviously based on that engine and that idea. They were really touting the exploration part of this, that being the focus, not having, sort of fog of war around your area, and you're sort of unlocking and exploring more. And the way it worked in the other games is you had a task, you had a job, you go do the job, you mess up, you get stuck, you go get another vehicle, you bring that back to pull that vehicle out. So then you get that one stuck, so you go get your other vehicle to pull that one out. And I'm just curious, which is fun for a while, but I am curious how did you feel about the exploration? Did you feel like you were exploring and unlocking the world, and is that rewarding? That part of the game?
Yeah, I didn't do a whole bunch of exploring because I mostly focused on missions, but there is fog of war in this game, so I don't know what they were talking about in that sense. Again, I have not played any of the other games, so I couldn't tell you how it compares to them. But there is fog of war in this game, and in fact, even though the drone can kind of help out with spotting it, apparently, if you're in a mission where you have to uncover a certain amount of ground, you actually have to uncover it with the vehicle, even though it clears up when you look at it with a drone and stuff. So that seems to be a hiccup in the game. But yeah, I haven't come across any situations where they let you take another vehicle out to rescue a vehicle. However, that actually leads me to a certain good point, is that this game it has a co-op mode that is coming soon. So there is, as I understand, the co-op mode is supposed to incorporate things like going out as a team, and like if somebody gets stuck, the other person can get them out of the situation and stuff like that. And it's supposed to be it looks like it would be really cool, like just from what I could tell of what they're planning. But yeah, that is not available at this time, and it will be available at some other time.
So when you flip a vehicle over, the only thing you can do is respawn at the base?
As far as I've seen, again, there may be a different story like later on, but like I said, it's about a 100-hour game all said and done. So I did not put that much time into it.
Sure.
100 hours to see all of it, but the first few quests I did, yeah, there wasn't really a go get a different vehicle type of thing. But maybe that is there. That's a good question. I wish I had the answer.
And are you unlocking vehicle perks or new vehicles, like as far as like the path, difficulty path, or
yeah, you can improve your vehicles between stages and stuff like that, and you can also there's stuff to unlock. And then, like I said, having the experts hired on too gives you like perks and certain things too. But yeah, you can actually improve the vehicles and stuff. So that is something.
Stuff in there too, I saw.
Yeah, and they also had the mod thing, which I did not even check out. Sorry, folks.
I don't think mods are active on console yet, but they should be coming. I've heard them tout that. I guess that and the online are yet to come, but.
Yeah, I didn't see much info on the mods thing, and like when I see mods, I'm not a computer gamer, so if I see mods, I don't click on it. I'm such a console gamer.
The game clocks in at $50 on console, $40 on PC. What do you think of it?
I think that if you are like into this kind of like slow-paced exploration, like really challenging yourself to like do things, like I found it actually a good analog to this that I found in my own life is that I was a piano mover for like 3 years, and that involved driving a box truck into weird situations and stuff. So I've had a little bit of this in real life, and I always thought this is really good gameplay, even though it's miserable as a real life experience. I was like, I would like to play a game where it's kind of like you have to figure out the best route to like do a thing. And this really scratches that itch. I think that it is worth it for that. It definitely has the content. Like I said, there's a lot of stages. They're very big. Well, at least, the ones I saw were very big. From what I've seen in other screenshots and reviews, it gets bigger. There's a lot of DLC. You can easily double the price of this game in DLC. Like there's a seasonal pack and stuff, and like just looking at the previous games and how many seasonal packs they all have, I'm like, wow, this this means to go on.
Yeah.
So I would say this is kind of it really is a time investment, and the money investment really comparatively doesn't seem so bad. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a buy it, with the caveat that, don't expect it to be like Excite Truck or something, which, by the way, that's my favorite racing game.
My brother. I know that
Yes.
about you. I do know that about you. So yes, yeah.
I
really like the SnowRunner game. I found to be, there was a moment where I realized I just needed to zen out. It's not a fast game, and you might get a little frustrated, but once you learn the rules of the world, it's really chill. It's a very chill experience if you're okay with that kind of patience in a game where you would expect to just be excite trucking. I am excited to try this out.
It was such a temptation, and really the early levels are pretty good at kind of tempering this out, but like you kind of have this you start to slide down, or you start to like lose some footing or something like that, and your instinct is just pound on the gas and like just try to get over it, but like no, you got to figure out something else.
Yep.
This game, it's a little more clever than that, this game, so I like that about it a lot. But yeah, it's cool. I'm looking forward to playing more of it. Like I said, once I'm done with Final Fantasy.
Grant, any update on the Contra code?
Yes, I did it. I won't say what it does, but that's cool. That's very cool.
I like it. I'm trying to save up for that.
My favorite application of the Konami code is Gradius 3.
What did it do in that one?
Gradius 3?
It blows up your ship.
Oh, gee.
But if you do you can get super powered by doing an alternate version of it. But if you do the classic code, then yeah, it just blows up your ship.
Nice.
That's great.
That's beautiful. All right, next game, the Thaumaturge, developed by Fool's Theory, published by 11-Bit Studios, released March 4th on Steam, Epic, and GOG for $34.99, coming to console later this year. The Thaumaturge is a story-driven RPG with morally ambiguous choices, taking place in the culturally diverse world of the early 20th century Warsaw. In this world, salutors exist as esoteric beings that only Thaumaturges can truly perceive and use for their needs. I don't know what any of these words mean. Pernell, can you fill us in?
I'm glad you don't, because that's a large part of the review in and of itself is really just to explain what the hell this crap is. So, Thaumaturge is what your main character and other people in this world happen to be. What is a Thaumaturge, you may ask? Well, there's a specific type of supernatural receptive person that is capable of finding objects and gauging the emotional and mental connection that they share with the person that originally possessed them. Give you a weird example. You might go to the store, you might go on the ground and find an empty bottle of Pepsi on the ground. Pick it up, the Thaumaturge can interpret it and go, this bottle of Pepsi is very dry. The bottle has been squeezed tightly. I can tell that the person who was drinking from it was very parched, possibly angry. Maybe they had a bad workout session as a result of having to drink this carbonated drink. And then they can then tie it to a person that is specifically associated with. And that is a large part of what makes this game what it is, because your main character is named Victor. Victor with a W. It's kind of interesting how that works. And he is a Thaumaturge, and he is pretty much on a mission. Originally, he starts out on a mission to pretty much fix his own plight because he's having issues reconnecting with his Salutor. I'll explain what that is in a second. And eventually, once that is resolved, he ends up going back to his home country to discovering a brand new mystery, which opens up to the main game at large. And the game, as they say, is afoot. So, in addition to what I described as a Thaumaturge being able to do, they are also capable of perceiving the existence of salutors. What is a salutor? Well, that is think of it as a spectral being of sorts that hungers for the human flaws that we as people possess. When a particular human flaw, possibly labeled as one of the 7 sins or such, is very much expressed in a person, it draws a salutor and it feeds on that person, potentially even giving them, inclinations to do things they maybe shouldn't do. And you can commune with those things. So, as you're playing through this game, you're exploring, the country of Warsaw in the I think you said 1920s, but basically pre-World War One. I know that much. And as you're exploring, you will be spending a lot of your time engaging in and solving mysteries. Those mysteries will ultimately lead you to your final destination. And sometimes they're just really cool side quests that will lead you to, new story bits and some possible cool rewards and loot. Funny enough, even though this is an RPG, it is primarily, I would say, focused on reading and lore. How do I know that aside from experience? Well, the fact that you get experience in this game from reading things. If you find an object on the ground and you give it a read, you get experience points. If you perceive something, because yes, you do have a perception gauge where you can kind of press, or perception action, where when you press a button, your guy will snap his fingers, a haze of red will appear, and things that you can, react to or respond to will kind of light up. Now, of course, in a lot of cases, you don't need to do this to find stuff, but let's be honest here. In a world where the world layout is built in this manner, you're going to be snapping your fingers left and right to see every damn thing that you can possibly see to save you the trouble of squinting. And that's pretty much what I did. That's even including the Steam Deck's ability to zoom in on the screen by pressing the Steam button and the L1 button to do so. I was still just snapping my fingers to find crap. So you're exploring the world, finding objects, using your Thaumaturge powers to associate them with people and objects. And once you've come across a certain number of things that can paint a picture for your character to draw a conclusion of sorts, the game will automatically connect the dots, so to speak, give you a conclusion, and bam, the game is further afoot on solving whatever mystery, whether it be part of the main quest or the side quest you need to resolve. One thing about this I dislike, not making it a bad game, but just kind of a weird thing, is that you will deduce things about people you've never met based solely on finding their items and connecting the dots. This happened a few times where I'm like, I don't know who this person is, but I know about her stuff. And when I produced those things, I learned that she was a married woman who was very distraught. But I've never even been to her house before. How do I know all these things? Thaumaturge, babe.
Speaking of learning things about people we don't really know, Mr. Duck Duck Noose just subbed to us Tier 1 for the first month. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for the sub. Glad you were here hanging out with us, listening to Pernell talk about the Thaumaturge.
Drop it, bitch!
300 biddies. Thank you so much for your support. Many hugs your way. Yeah. Pernell, Thaumaturge.
Duck Noose.
Yes.
I just had to say that. Okay. And then I can move on.
Great name, too.
A great name. So that is essentially what you'll be doing. Like, you'll be walking around, researching objects, talking to people, piecing together mysteries to further your quest to get the answers you need. As you develop acquire experience points, your character is able to level up in one of 4 areas, like heart, mind, deed, and I can't remember the 4th one, but there's 4 things. Just go with that. Now, it's not a particularly complicated level up system. The idea is that you'll spend your gained experience points to increase. You go up on the grid for that particular aspect of your character. There's no complicated twists and turns. It's just you go further along. And in addition to getting perks that will further allow you to investigate objects on the map. So, for example, you might need heart level 2 to investigate a certain object on the map. In addition to that, you'll also unlock passive buffs, whether they go to your character proper, or you can equip them on your actual attacks for combat to give them passive abilities, like a light one that you get really early. That's pretty freaking awesome. It's a 60% chance to do double damage when you use said attack. Yeah, get that. And then apply it to something at all times, because it just seems that's just smart business. So, combat, albeit rare, is a thing that happens in this game. Well, I don't want to say rare, but it's not the meat and potatoes of the game. Again, the meat and potatoes of the game is the exploration and the story bits. But when you do get into a big scuffle of a brawl down, combat takes place in a manner similar to if you've played Grandia 1 back in the day. I think Grandia 2 used this too, where it gives you a bar, and the bar has a sequence of events that will determine that at a certain amount of time an attack will take place from a person. But your attacks have a duration of time they take to execute And if you can get it off before the enemy can get theirs in the event that you also have a perk that will allow you to cancel it, you can potentially cancel an enemy's attack or just hopefully get more attacks in than they can by doing a bunch of quick attacks. But you can also do attacks that will take longer but do more damage. There are attacks that will reduce an enemy's focus, and once you've reduced their focus enough, you can do a super attack, essentially, I'm calling it a super attack, I don't know what the hell it was called proper, and that attack will allow you to do a large stream of damage to an enemy. Some enemies have a low amount of focus, which almost makes it obvious that you'll want to do it to them to use their super attacks. And other enemies might have a little bit more, which means it makes more sense to beat the stuffing out of them. Focus be damned.
Before you get too far, I want to give a quick thank you for saying Grandia 2. Did you hear the news about that game?
I did, and I'm glad more people will get to experience it because Grandia 1 and Grandia 2 are still phenomenal games. I need to sit down and play Grandia 3. I'm just glad I happen to have a PS2 copy because that damn game will never show up on a collection for some reason.
Well, 1 and 2 are in a collection that are hitting Xbox and PlayStation later this month. So that's pretty badass.
Easy.
Very cool.
If they give us a review, I'll take it. If they don't, I'm still going to tell people to buy it because they're both fucking great games. So good.
Well, is Thaumaturge a great fucking game?
I would say it is. I didn't even get into the idea of the fact you get new Thaumaturge, you get new Salators as you play through the game, which allows you to get more access to more attacks that you can perform. They almost work as extra party members in some respects. They're freaking cool. But I digress. I'm rambling. Thaumaturge is good. Just know that if you get in this game, you need to take your time and read because much of the game requires you to read. There's a lot of dialogue in this game. And if you're the type that wants to skip through it to get to the quote unquote action, you're going to miss out on like 70% of the title. So maybe don't do that.
Well, clock's in at $34.99. What's your verdict?
Gimme, go buy it. It's fun. And it's also kind of nice to not see a game that is another, I don't know, it feels different from the norm right now, as it were, in this genre. So, yeah.
I am looking forward to it hitting console later on this year. I don't think it has a set release date, just a vague later this year. But one final game to talk about tonight. We are just about done. Eldgear, developed by MCF Company and Akira Kojima of Studio Apu. Published by KEMCO, released March 8th on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC for $19.99. Live a grand adventure as an agent of Eldgear to seal the ancient ruins. Chris, what's going on in Eldgear?
I wish I could tell you. I had to start the game entirely over twice just to remind myself of any bit of the story.
Oh, jeez.
No. We'll talk about it. Okay, so Eldgear, thankfully not one of those games that's trying to, corner the market of games that start with ELD, like we talked about last week. This game actually is quite old. So I just want to brag on myself a little bit that there's no other reviews of this game that exist. And no real information to be had apart from just the stuff that you read, which is from the eShop store and stuff. And I actually had to use Google Translate to get certain information about this game and stuff. So because that's my dedication to the KEMCO brand, and I hope that they recognize that I'm putting in the work here. So
this is a whole new company with KEMCO. Yes, we haven't. I don't think we've seen anything by MCF, have we?
We Americans haven't. This game was actually released on Japanese mobile phones back in 2006. So this is actually a little bit of an older game. It is the first game of a trilogy. The other two games, again, this is Google Translate telling me this, but apparently the other two games in the series are called Eldbart and Eldruin. So this is this predates the other Eld game that one may know about by a lot. So it's not just clever naming. So yes, this is a tactical strategy RPG that kind of functions a little bit like the Sega CD and Game Gear versions of Shining Force. If that doesn't make any sense. Basically, there's no world map, there's no towns, there's, anything like that, you go from one battle to the next, and in between is when you get to do your character improvements and loadout. The story just happens between stages. So it's, like I said, it will very much kind of feel like a mobile game when you play it, but that's very typical for anything KEMCO publishes, as far as like these kind of games go. However, it's nice and cleaned up. Character portraits look great, very anime. The animation is very fluid. Sprites look good. It definitely looks like it's possibly had like a bit of a facelift since its original. The translation job is not quite up to snuff on that. So again, the reason that I had to like really look into this one and restart it and such is because the sentences that these characters say to each other make no sense most of the time. But what I'm able to gather of the story is that it is it's one of those things that's so far in the future that it's the past again, which is pretty normal. There's basically, humanity is seeking out technology of the past by diving into temples and ruins. Our two characters that we're introduced to right away are Luck, who spends most of the intro complaining about his name. It's Luc. Not like Luck, so it could be Luke, it could be Luck. I don't know. And then there's Gal, who is also called the Dark Emperor. He's kind of a powerhouse character that is just also kind of the leader of the two. So even though we're kind of getting the idea that Luck is the real protagonist, Gal is kind of taking charge and such. They dive into their first ruin, and they find a human weapon known as a gear. These are illegal and very rare and highly sought after by two warring kingdoms, or two kingdoms with kind of a tenuous peace between them. So extracting this weapon, who of course is a cute girl named Foley, because of course a weapon of such destruction and power has to be like a cute girl riding a broom, because anime. So they rescue her, and that sets off events that will determine basically the rest of the plot, which is mostly running into guys that really want to get her somewhere else that is not with you. So you don't have to know the story so much. It kind of makes sense in this kind of context of, well, this is just RPG stuff. So I do forgive the awkward prose of it, but yeah, it's some of the more awkward prose I've seen from KEMCO, at least not since the 3DS days that have I seen something that was borderline unreadable at times. But again, they get the point across, and the big point is that it's the battle systems. So it works like a standard strategy RPG. You move your guys across different tiles and do attacks and, or buffs or something, heal your characters, try to take down armies of lookalike bad guys and, a big boss and stuff. And then, just move on to the next, after procuring your hard-earned sawbucks. In this game, between stages, everything is bought with money. That is to say, all of your, besides some stuff that you get naturally from leveling up, you pay for stat increases with money, you pay for new skills with money, you pay for improving your weapons with money. So it's not like buying new weapons, you're just spending money to make your weapons better. And then, going into the next stage. Now, the cool thing about this is that with this limited system, you're thinking, well, there's probably, it's pretty challenging. Enemies can do a lot of damage to your guys, which, really belies the first level. Because when you get into this game, you realize, oh, my character Gal has like 4,000 points of HP, and he's hitting for like 3,000 points. Like, this guy is going to be like so OP, it's going to be like not even joking, right? But no, it just turns out this is a game with big numbers. They actually show you in the previews for this game that numbers get up into the 20,000s, 100,000s. It actually 4,000 is just the start. So don't be fooled when you see that you have like thousands and thousands of hit points. You're going to need thousands and thousands of more by the time you get through this thing. But yeah, it's I guess it's like Disgaea kind of did that. So like maybe that's just a thing in strategy RPGs sometimes, which is funny because like the Final Fantasy Tactics games, it's like you end the game with like 300 hit points if you're lucky.
You do like 4 damage.
Yeah, exactly. 4 damage, and you're like, oh hell yeah,
critical.
That's like wizardry numbers. Anyways. Or like Shining Force, where if you go over 100, it doesn't even count anymore. It's just question marks. How dare you have over 100 stat points? Anyways, so there's a couple of different systems in this game and to determine, like, you know, to kind of tilt the scales in your favor. It's not that they're complicated; it's that they're poorly explained. Literally. This game comes with a 35-page manual, and I can't quite tell you what an EMA does, but it is kind of, I don't know, it's something that builds up and then adds some kind of stat buff to your character over time. Who knows? You could still just point your character at a thing and say, hit with sword, please, and they will oblige. Now, there are some complications, one of which is the game deals mostly with just like terrain and stuff. So it's like kind of trying to take the high ground, and that gets you most of your damage and most of your defense. So, you know, trying to get higher than the enemy without getting surrounded is a great way to be. However, there's other, like, apart from moving around to try and gain the high ground, there's benefits to just standing still, in that most of the skills that your characters at least start out with will basically be locked away if you move your character. So certain spells, certain sword moves, most buffs are basically like you have to stand still and use them and kind of skip your turn. Or, you know, if you're in a good position defensively, then it's a good thing to do. But yeah, it's like there's a lot of like playing defense in this game, because some of your strong moves require you to not move to get into the enemy's position, you know, before you use it. Thankfully, most of the attacks are long range. That is to say, you're not just having to like stand right up against your enemy's elbows to, you know, hit them with a sword. Your sword may have like a 2 square grasp or even a 3, depending on what you can do, because your characters, it goes into a separate animation for all of your characters, unless you turn that off. But like kind of Fire Emblem style, where you see like a cutscene of your character attacking the other, and everybody, whether they're hitting or getting hit, has just like jetpacks everywhere. It's just like they jetpack over there, whack them with a sword, and they jetpack backwards, and then, you know, jetpack forwards, and it's very anime, like I said, for being a sprite-based game. I quite enjoy that. But yeah, it's basically it's a new system, like kind of a newish system of how to do things. That is to say, having like certain moves locked away behind movement is really interesting. And, you know, like I said, also the the types of moves, you kind of have to learn like really what they do and what they don't do. And like I said, there's certain things that still, after playing this game for a few hours, I'm confused about. One, every stage has treasure chests in it. How do you open them? I don't know. It's not in the 35-page manual. If you walk up to the chest, you can stand on top of the chest, but you can't interact with it at all. But they're in every stage. They got to have something in them. It's like, I just don't know.
Maybe it's just set dressing.
It could be, but why?
Yeah.
And they're like out of the way, so it's like, it seems like it's very Shining Force style. Like, I should go over there and get that chest. But I walk over to that chest, none of my moves work, none of the buttons work. Again, I can stand on top of it. It is an object, but I don't know. Do you get a character that can open chests at some point? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, you know, this game is new and yet not, and the information on it is extremely thin on the ground. So I'm still learning about it, but at least I got to play through, you know, several stages and kind of get a feel for it. And I appreciate its kind of fast-paced approach to strategy RPGs, and I like that not only do you retain your new levels and experience if you get killed, because if one character gets killed, it's game over, right? so you have to start the battle over. But all experience is kept, so you can always you'll eventually overpower. Because you gain experience after every move, just like Shining Force. And the character that gets killed gets a bonus of experience. So the game's nice about like letting you die and like figure it out better next time. And that's good because they do put you in some situations in this game. They will start you off surrounded sometimes, and you really have to be clever. But I like that. I like that in strategy games, and I like that in here.
Very cool. It seems like you enjoyed this one. So for $20, what is your verdict?
Oh, $20 is a premium for a KEMCO RPG. I can tell you that much. Sadly, because information on this game is so sparse, I don't know anything about its length, and that would be the real selling point. How long is this game? How deep does this go? I will say it is fun, and $20 I have spent on games that are a lot less fun. So for that reason, I will give it a cautious buy it, maybe even a try it, because I really want to let people know that it's not a game for the readers. It does not tell a very eloquent, majestic story or anything. It seems like it's pretty tropey. If not like a little bit rushed, but also a lot of it is probably lost in translation. So this really is for like your Hoshigami fans, you know, like a hard SRPG that just doesn't dwell on story too much. You know, if you're into that and the challenge, then I say go ahead and go for it. But yeah, if you're, you know, don't expect like a Final Fantasy Tactics level of like intrigue and you know, political whatever's here. It's, you know, it seems to be a simpler thing than that. And I say this usually praising KEMCO RPGs for their stories. So don't think that this is just me saying, well, like all KEMCO RPGs, it's bad. I like KEMCO RPGs and I like this game. So just understand that, you know, I'm not trying to sell you on it based on its writing or its story. It's a cool SRPG with a cool system of combat, and for that reason, I say it's worth a look.
What's up with those treasure chests? Like,
I don't know.
What do we do? What do we do about the treasure chests?
I mean, you know, now that my review's over, I'm going to like spend the time and really get to know it once Final Fantasy VII's over.
Yeah.
So,
now, if people are on the fence about this one, Steam and Switch at least, you buy it by the 21st, you could save 10%. So save $2, $17.99.
Save $2 today.
That is it for this episode. We made it through. Thank you, everyone, for being here, hanging out. Thanks to those that we have loved and lost along the way, who got tired and went to bed. Music this episode. Grant, you are familiar with the Rocked and Loaded album, yes?
Hell yeah.
What would you like us to play?
Yeah. Oh, so I don't remember the names of the songs on that. Play something off Rocked and Loaded. Chef's Choice.
Cool. We'll find something. So,
yeah.
Do you know the whole story of Rocked and Loaded? Are you like...
I don't know, so go ahead and tell me.
I was shocked that you weren't on there, Grant.
Oh, this is a long time ago. I mean, this is before, like, I think this was right about the time that I met Nate. And I knew the guys and I'd done show stuff, but this thing came out March of 2010. So, I mean, I really got to know the guys that worked on this record really right about that time or just after. So, yeah. So no, not on this one. But don't need to be. It's fine. It's real good.
You know, we could play your Contra song too.
Hey, it's 60 seconds.
Yeah. So anyone have any final words before we listen to the entire Contra soundtrack in 60 seconds?
Gotta go fast.